Isn't the day wonderful? July the 10th and 175 days left in the year. You've come to the Daily Thought for the day. If you are new here, click a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification button, and let's get into it. We have 10 minutes of devotion, some scriptures, thoughts, history, and a joke. John 13:34. A new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. Reading the Bible in the year today is Job 41 to 42 and Acts chapter 16 verses 22 to 40. Here's your thoughts for the day. I've always found that mercy bears richer fruits than stricter justice. Abraham Lincoln said that. The self-sufficient do not pray. The self-satisfied will not pray. The self-righteous cannot pray. No man is greater than his prayer life. Without the smashing of grapes, there would be no wine. Without the pressing of olives, there would be no oil. Without sorrow, there would be no true joy. And without any pressure, there would be no diamonds. All right, motivation for today. If we value the pursuit of knowledge, we must be free to follow wherever that search may lead us. The free mind is not a barking dog to be tethered on a 10-foot chain. On this day in history, 138 AD, the death of the Roman Emperor Hadrian. 1900 was the opening of the Paris Underground Railway, the Metro. 1962 was the launch of Telstar, the world's first television communication satellite, and it brought live pictures from America to Europe. In 2017, NASA's Juno spacecraft makes the closest ever pass to Jupiter's Great Red Spot, 9,000 kilometers overhead. In 2018 was the last of the 4 boys and their coach to be rescued from a cave in Thailand. Here's your personal story for today. After a meeting in which the pastor had preached about spiritual gifts, he was greeted at the door by a new woman who said, "Pastor, I believe I have the gift of criticism." He responded, "Do you remember the person in Jesus' parable who had 1 talent? Do you recall what he did with it?" "Yes," the woman replied. "He went and buried it." With a smile, the pastor suggested, "Well, go and do likewise." If criticism is not given lovingly and with an honest desire to help, it can be cruel and destructive. The words of Leviticus 19:17, "Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him." And they're preceded by warnings against spreading slander and nursing hatred, bearing false witness against your neighbor. That would be a good one. A lot of people could probably use a little dose of that these days. You can determine when you should criticize and when you shouldn't by asking yourself 3 questions. Number 1, am I motivated by a desire to help the other person or by offenses? Number 2, am I planning to face them honestly but gently? And number 3, am I doing this for the Lord or because I am under natural pressure to do so? Now, if your goal is to help, you want the better for the person, love one another as I have loved you, and all of that, then, perhaps the desire is to please God, then go ahead and criticize, offering a godly solution that will work. Now, if it can't pass these tests, keep quiet. Probably go work on as we've said, take that log out of your own eye, and then you can worry about the specks of dust in your brother's eye. Ephesians 4:29, "Let no corrupt communication without spiritual value proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers." And here's your devotional thoughts for today. Galatians 5:7, "You did run well." And references today are from Galatians 5:7 to 12. "So a lady was out working in her garden when she heard her female neighbor screaming at her daughter. Thinking that perhaps she should calm her, she went to see what the fuss was about. Instead of finding her angry and distraught, however, she saw her hugging her daughter tightly. When she asked what was going on, her neighbor explained that her little girl had run into the road, ignoring her command to stay in the yard. She had screamed when she heard the car approaching and ran to get her daughter. She explained, "My voice and my actions have to make it clear to her that it's dangerous to go on the road, and because I love her, I won't let her do it." Now, Paul would understand. He was in the middle of spelling out the relationship between living in freedom and living in love. In our verses today, he deviates from this main issue to exhort us again not to fall prey to dangerous teachings they have heard about submitting to the law. The issue for Paul is clear. Following this teaching equals failing to obey the truth of the gospel or good news message. He adds that the notion that the Gentiles need both the good news, gospel, and the law in order to be fully rescued from this evil age is to abolish the offense of the cross. Paul uses some very harsh language in reference to those telling the Galatians that they must be circumcised to gain God's favor. He calls them corrupt and wishes they would go as far away and, cut them off. The strong, even violent tone is interesting given that Paul is in the middle of discussion about love. Shouldn't Paul be more loving towards these unnamed teachers? Well, this is the type of challenge today that many of us fail to address. But live in the grace of God, and the laws are written on your heart. And God is love. 1 John 4:16 says, "And we have known and believed the love that God has towards us. God is love, and he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in him." Well, God is love. We've said that a number of times. He doesn't pick out specific people to love. He loves all of us unconditionally. He loved us so much he sent his only begotten Son, Jesus, to die for us. There's never been a love equal and never will be in this world. Man can show love, but never on the same level as God has. Man can be fickle in his love. And of course, maybe love is not the correct word for it. In love one day and out of love the next, that's not an agape love, is it? That's more that eros love that we've talked about before. So God is never fickle. God is agape love. He's unconditional. Man isn't always nice, even though he identifies himself as being in love. God will always be there to lift you up, to hold your hand, to hear you cry, to bring you peace when you think there is no peace. If you are in need of love, call on the God of love today. He can heal a broken heart, bring you a peace that passes all understanding, and be with you through the bad times as well as the good. Give his love a chance today. That's today's lesson and devotion. Let's get some fun facts, shall we? Did you know a 4-month-old fetus will startle and turn away if a bright light is flashed on its mother's belly? Babies in the womb will also react to the sudden loud noises, even if their mother's ears are muffled. And there are more than 300 references to sheep and lambs, more than any other animal in the Bible's Old Testament. It's one of the earliest records of sheep. Here's your closing thought. Lord, help me maintain my wonder of great and noble things. All right, I've got a joke. Who says the elderly aren't dumb? All right, here's the story. A man in Scotland calls his son in London the day before Christmas Eve and says, I hate to ruin your day, but this is it. I tell you, your mother and I are divorcing. 45 years of misery is enough. Dad, what are you talking about? We can't stand the sight of each other any longer, the father says. We're sick of each other, and I'm sick of talking about this, so you call your sister in Leeds and tell her. Well, frantic, the son calls his sister, who explodes on the phone. Oh, like hell, they're getting divorced, she shouts. I'll take care of this. She calls Scotland immediately and screams at her father. You are not getting divorced. Don't do a single thing until I get there. I'm calling my brother back, and we'll both be there tomorrow. Until then, don't do a thing. Do you hear me? And hangs up. Well, the old man hangs up his phone, turns to his wife. Okay, that worked. It's settled. They're coming for Christmas, and this time they're going to pay their own way. That's all I got. Thanks for coming. God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow.